The heavy rain beat down on her, but Lyra Hayes's heart was alive. Her soaked wedding dress dragged as she ran out of the chapel, driven by an invigorating need for freedom. Lyra Clark, the powerful CEO with a gaze that flashed sparks, felt a burning, overwhelming attraction the moment he saw her. She chose freedom. But can a connection this profound, forged in the very heart of a storm, truly offer a deeper liberation, one that speaks directly to the soul's most yearning desires? Subscribe to discover your connected destinations and tell us in the comments which city you're watching. The apartment door clicked shut, a soft, definitive sound swallowed by the exhilarating calm of her newfound freedom. Her breath hitched, light and fresh, tasting of the cold night air and invigorating unknown possibilities that stretched before her like an open road. This single moment felt more real than the entire life she had just left behind her. The heavy lace of her wedding gown, a symbol of the life she'd irrevocably abandoned, clung to her. It was a sodden, soft weight that left icy marks on her skin, a tangible, chilling reminder of the choices she had just made. The cold was a strange comfort, a shock that proved she was finally awake and in control of her own fate. She leaned back against the cool wood, forehead pressed to the surface, breathing deeply. She could feel every defiant beat of her heart, a joyous, rebellious rhythm that pulsed through her veins. This powerful pulse declared her new, untamed existence to the quiet, empty room, her first true sanctuary. Her gaze swept across the familiar, unassuming living room, a stark, comforting contrast to the opulent, suffocating future she had fled. Rain lashed relentlessly against the windowpane, blurring the vibrant city lights into impressionistic smudges of color. This chaos outside mirrored the beautiful transformation unfolding within her soul. The roar of the storm outside seemed to echo the tempest of emotions she was barely containing, a potent mix of lingering terror and intoxicating liberation. She kicked off her ruined satin heels, her toes numb with cold, letting them drop with soft thuds onto the worn carpet. Each sound was a monumental, irreversible step into her new life. Every movement now felt charged with a profound significance, propelled by an instinct that bypassed all logical thought. The silence that enveloped her, broken only by the relentless rhythm of the rain, felt welcoming, an embrace of self-ownership that soothed her fractured nerves and began to heal her wounded spirit. She wasn't sure if it was relief or exhaustion, but a faint scent of rain, old books, and something deeply masculine from beyond her walls stirred a curious warmth within her. It was a subtle reminder of the world beyond her immediate crisis, a quiet promise of connection. A spark of curiosity promised a dangerous connection. Across the narrow divide of a shared wall, Lyra Clark found himself unable to stay still. He had seen her from his penthouse window, a fleeting flash of white, a figure of captivating fragility caught in the relentless rain. Her frantic entry and the hurried click of her lock sparked a potent, unexpected concern within him that he simply could not ignore. The muffled thud of her struggle reached him, breaking through his meticulously crafted solitude. It stirred an undeniable connection deep within him, a magnetic pull toward this runaway bride who had unexpectedly captured his senses. He felt a deep, consuming curiosity, an instinct to protect her from the world. He moved to his door with decisive strides, his hand closing around the cool metal doorknob in a silent, irrevocable decision. He knocked, a firm, deliberate sound that echoed powerfully through Lyra's small apartment. It was a resonant interruption to her frantic solitude, a question asked without a single word. Lyra froze, her breath caught in her throat, her heart hammering against her ribs like a wild bird trapped. She opened the door a crack, her hand still fumbling with the last buttons of her gown. It was now dangerously loose, revealing a glimpse of delicate skin and the lace underneath, a silent plea for salvation. Elias stood there, impossibly tall, his dark suit impeccably tailored. His stormy grey eyes, usually cool, now burned with an intensity that stole Lyra's breath. The moment their gazes met, an electric current leapt between them, raw and undeniable, a recognition deep in her soul that resonated with a thrilling, dangerous promise. His voice was a low rumble, imbued with an authority that was both commanding and unexpectedly calming. "Are you all right?" he asked, his gaze falling to her trembling fingers. His concern was a palpable thing, a warmth that cut through the cold fear gripping her, sparking an inexplicable sense of trust in a complete stranger. Without waiting for a reply, he stepped into her apartment, closing the door softly behind him. The click of the lock sealed them into a private, charged space, a sanctuary for two. She took an involuntary step back, her heart fluttering in frantic response to his overwhelming proximity. His touch was a promise she couldn't refuse. "Let me help," he murmured, his voice a low murmur against her ear, as he gently turned her around. His movements were precise and confident, radiating an aura of unwavering control. His body pressed lightly against her back, the hard planes of his chest a stark contrast to her softer curves, a shocking intimacy that made her breath catch. Her breath hitched as his fingers, surprisingly deft and gentle, began to undo the remaining buttons of her gown. Each release was a silent surrender, an unspoken invitation that she found herself instinctively accepting. She had run from one man only to find herself yielding completely to another, and somehow it felt right. Each brush of his skin against hers, through the thin silk, sent exquisite sparks down her spine. It ignited a trail of heat she hadn't known she possessed, a deep primal awakening she was helpless to resist. The sensation was overwhelming, a stark contrast to the cold emptiness she had felt in the chapel just hours before. The dress loosened, falling from her shoulders with a sigh of silk and pooling at her feet. She was left standing in simple, delicate underthings, exposed and vulnerable, yet surprisingly unashamed under his unwavering gaze. It was a silent testament to the powerful, unspoken connection they were already forging between them. Lyra gasped, her cheeks flushing with a sudden, overwhelming rush of heat. Her modesty was momentarily forgotten in the intensity of his presence, the raw power that emanated from him. She tried to pull away, a flicker of instinctual modesty returning, but his hands, strong and warm, settled on her bare waist. He leaned in, his lips brushing the sensitive skin behind her ear, a feather-light touch that sent delicious shivers through her. "Beautiful," he murmured, his breath warm against her skin. He slowly turned her in his arms until she faced him, her eyes wide and startled, her body shamelessly leaning into his touch. His gaze swept over her with a deep sense of appreciation that was both primal and respectful. He lowered his head, his lips meeting hers in a deep, tender kiss that left no room for thought, no space for resistance. It was a kiss of yearning and raw emotion. One kiss had just sealed their intertwined fates. Lyra woke with a start, the vivid memory of Elias's kiss warming her lips. She lay on her small sofa, wrapped in his oversized cashmere sweater, a silent gift he'd left draped over her. It was now a tangible reminder of his powerful, enigmatic presence, a comforting weight against her skin that felt both strange and familiar. The immediate rush of adrenaline from her escape had finally subsided, leaving a hollow ache that was now filled by a blossoming curiosity. She had fled one obligatory future, only to tumble quite literally into the arms of a man who now encompassed her world. She found herself yearning for his continued presence. She drifted into her small kitchen, the idea of a warm drink a simple comfort in her bewildering new reality. She fumbled for the kettle, her hands still trembling slightly, a residual tremor from the thrill of her escape and the audacity of his arrival. The mundane act of making tea felt strangely grounding amidst the newness. The soft rumble of the kettle couldn't drown out the persistent echo of his voice or the indelible sensation of his touch. Through the window, the rain had eased to a drizzle. Lyra pressed her palm against the cool glass, her mind replaying snippets of Elias's intense gaze, igniting a deep, consuming longing for him. Across the thin wall, Eliasa, now in a dark silk robe, stood by his own panoramic window. His gaze, usually assessing, now held a glimpse of intense fascination. He had heard her stir, sensed her awakening, a subtle vibration through the shared wall that his heightened senses now picked up with uncanny precision. Her scent, a subtle mix of rain and something undeniably feminine, seemed to permeate his spacious, minimalist room. It was a stark contrast to his usual solitude, yet deeply compelling and utterly captivating. He felt a rare vulnerability he rarely showed to anyone, a softening of his guarded heart. The image of her, vulnerable and captivating in his arms, was seared into his mind. His mind, accustomed to orchestrating global businesses, was now consumed by the narrative of his runaway bride. Their proximity had forged an unsettling but irresistible bond that had blossomed into an undeniable connection. He desired her with an intensity that startled him. Lyra sought refuge in the small claw-footed bathtub, letting the hot water rise around her. It was a temporary balm against the persistent chill in her bones and the lingering connection of Elias's touch that still tingled on her skin. Steam billowed, fogging the small bathroom mirror, a welcome distraction. Here in this humid cocoon, the day's immense weight felt momentarily suspended, but the memory of his lips on hers was a sweet, constant ache, a lingering phantom connection that sparked a warmth deep in her core. She closed her eyes, trying to empty her mind, but his presence was undeniable and all-consuming. Flashes of the previous day insisted on intruding with vivid clarity, the oppressive glare of chandeliers, and then the electrifying intensity of Elias's gaze. The raw power in his eyes and the profound passion of his kiss had utterly undone her. A shiver ran through her, a visceral rejection of the fate she'd narrowly avoided. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor from the wall next to her reminded her of his inescapable presence. It was a mere whisper of another life unfolding so close, yet so completely separate until last night. She wondered about him, the mysterious resident of the opulent penthouse she had only ever glimpsed in passing. Now, she knew the feel of his touch, the taste of his mouth, the powerful strength of his hands that had held her so close. The memory alone was enough to ignite a dangerous blush on her wet skin. He was an enigma she was becoming desperate to solve, a mystery that pulled her in deeper with every thought. Elias, in his soundproofed study, found his focus utterly disrupted. The deep resonance of the cello, usually so calming, now seemed to carry a current of intense and unspoken connection directly to her. He tried to immerse himself in financial reports, but the image of Lyra persisted relentlessly in his mind. He imagined her in the water, her alluring form. Her skin flushed and felt a nagging yearning within him. The subtle sounds he'd once dismissed as ambient building noise now held a new, compelling significance. It was a constant magnetic pull to her, an irresistible force in their burgeoning romance. His touch had left a permanent mark on her soul. A deep hunger in Lyra's stomach finally made itself known, a stark visceral contrast to her emotional turmoil. She moved through her quiet apartment, the faint scent of lavender clinging to her. Her gaze fell on the small ornate wedding ring she still wore, glinting dully in the dim morning light. It was a poignant symbol of the fate she'd narrowly escaped, a stark reminder of her radical, terrifying freedom. Its cold weight felt utterly alien against her skin, a relic of a past that no longer belonged to her. She was a ghost in her own life, haunted by a choice that had saved her from a different kind of death. She slid the ring off, its golden band a silent burden, placing it carefully on her bedside table. The faint click of metal against wood echoed loudly in the profound silence, a full stop to a tumultuous chapter. A tremor ran through her, a mix of lingering fear and an exhilarating sense of having reclaimed herself. A dangerous new awareness of her own independence, sparked by Elias's intervention, began to ignite a powerful flame within her. Her thoughts drifted to practicalities, how to find work, how to disappear into the city's anonymous sprawl. The sheer enormity of it threatened to overwhelm her completely, but then she noticed a faint, more distinct aroma from the adjacent apartment. Not just coffee, but something richer, like aged leather, and a hint of sophisticated earthy cologne. It was a tantalizing intrusion into her isolation, both disorienting and strangely comforting, sparking a warmth of curiosity within her core. Elias Clark, still draped in his dark silk robe, paced his vast study. His mind, usually a fortress of cold logic, found itself returning again and again to the woman next door. He watched the subtle shifts in the light from her apartment, an unspoken narrative unfolding just beyond his reach that he was desperate to understand. The profound quiet from her side spoke volumes, hinting at a raw vulnerability that ignited a potent, unusual urgency within him. A fierce desire to wholly protect her, to claim her as his own, took root in his soul. His disciplined routine had been irrevocably shattered by her unexpected arrival. He was a powerful man, utterly drawn to her. Lyra finally succumbed to a heavy, dreamless sleep, collapsing on her sofa where the faint scent of Elias's sweater and her own exhaustion mingled. It was a shallow, restless sleep, a fragile respite from the relentless pursuit of her own thoughts. Yet even in sleep, a nascent warmth stirred, a faint echo of his powerful presence. She woke with a jolt, disoriented by the dim, grey light filtering through the window. For a moment she forgot where she was, a fleeting amnesia. Then the memories rushed back, a cold, harsh wave washing over her. The thought of Elias, the feel of his lips, flooded her senses, igniting a flush in her cheeks. The city outside was slowly awakening, a faint hum replacing the brutal beat of the rain. It signified a new day, a frighteningly new beginning she had to face. The immediate panic had subsided, replaced by a firm, unshakable resolve. She had made her choice, and now she would live it, no matter how difficult. She would find a way to rebuild, to forge a new path far from the gilded cage she'd almost stepped into. This future would be defined by her own terms, infused with the quiet strength of her spirit. The thought brought a surprising surge of resilience she hadn't known she possessed, a quiet determination. A dangerous spark of curiosity ignited within her about where this path, with Elias as her silent shadow, might lead. He was an unknown variable in her carefully constructed escape, a complication she found herself wanting more than she should. He was a puzzle she felt compelled to solve. Elias, who had barely slept, stood by his own panoramic window watching the first blush of dawn. His powerful mind, usually occupied with intricate corporate strategies, found itself irrevocably tethered to the captivating existence of the woman next door. He was filled with a new, profound purpose. She raised it to her lips, taking a hesitant bite. The rich, sweet flavors of apple and cinnamon exploded on her tongue, a luxurious softness she hadn't tasted in an eternity. It was a pure, unadulterated pleasure that brought a flush to her cheeks, a moment of comfort in the chaos of her new life. A small, involuntary sound of pleasure escaped her lips, a soft sigh she hoped perhaps reached him through the wall. It was a silent acknowledgement of his thoughtful, profound gesture, an answer to an unasked question. She was grateful, more than he could ever know. A wave of unexpected gratitude washed over her, melting the edges of her carefully constructed defenses. This wasn't pity, she realized. It was a silent acknowledgement of her quiet struggle, her undeniable courage. She glanced at the shared wall, a faint blush rising to her cheeks. Knowing he could somehow sense her acceptance, across the wall, Elias felt the subtle shift in the air, a lightness that hinted at her acceptance. He hadn't heard a sound, but he felt it, an almost psychic connection to her quiet apartment. Her small, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips, a rare sight that softened the usual stern lines of his face. Her pleasure was a direct result of his efforts, and it fueled his own satisfaction. This was a deeper success than any business deal. He pictured her, savoring the taste, her delicate face softened by the unexpected treat. This wasn't about grand gestures. It was about subtle understanding. His silent care was a promise of more to come. The next morning, Lyra rose with a renewed sense of purpose. The lingering echoes of Elias's piano music from the night before were still a soft, comforting hum in her memory. The scone had infused her with a fragile strength, a new resolve that settled deep in her bones. She began to organize her few belongings. Her escape had been chaotic, but her future, she vowed, would be meticulously crafted. It would be a testament to her unbreakable spirit in this bustling city story. A thoughtful, hopeful part of her wondered if that future would intertwine with the enigmatic man next door in more significant ways. She retrieved a worn sketchbook and a small box of charcoal pencils from her meager possessions. Art had always been her true voice, her sanctuary, a silent language she understood intrinsically. It was a powerful means of expression, a way to make sense of a world that had tried to silence her. Perhaps, she mused, there was a way to turn this passion into a means of survival. The idea, once a distant dream, now felt like a tangible possibility, a ray of hope breaking through the grey dawn of her new beginning. She found herself sketching, her hand moving with an almost automatic grace. She captured the subtle play of light and shadow on the cityscape outside her window, translating its silent narrative onto paper. The city, once a symbol of her confinement, now felt like a vast, inspiring canvas, brimming with untold stories, waiting to be interpreted through her unique vision. As she drew, a profound sense of peace settled over her, a quiet reclaiming of her identity. Yet a subtle, ever-present awareness of her neighbor's quiet presence remained, a constant hum in her periphery. It was a constant, comforting reminder of their unique and unspoken bond. Elias, observing the new patterns of light from her apartment, sensed a palpable shift in her energy. He noticed the occasional scrape of a chair, the soft rustle of paper, the quiet hum of artistic endeavor. It was a beacon of her resilient spirit, a sign that she was beginning to heal. He knew he had to help her find her way. Lyra was lost in the intricate dance of charcoal on paper. The soft whisper of the stick against the textured surface was a calming rhythmic balm against the distant hum of the city. Hours melted away as she translated the vast, rain-swept cityscape outside her window into a series of stark, compelling sketches. Each line, each shadow, felt like a reclaiming of herself, a defiant act against the life that had tried to suffocate her spirit. A profound sense of peace settled over her, a quiet, almost fragile joy she hadn't felt in years. The suffocating weight of her past began to dissipate, replaced by a nascent sense of hope. The city, once a cold, indifferent giant, transformed into a vibrant muse. Its towering structures and fleeting moments inspired a silent internal narrative that flowed freely from her heart onto the paper. She was telling her own story in her own language for the very first time. Yet a subtle, insistent awareness of the wall next to her remained a constant hum in her periphery. She wondered if he, too, was immersed in his own world, their shared solitude, bridging a silent, powerful connection that deepened with every passing moment. The thought was both intrusive and strangely comforting. A delicate, almost imperceptible thread seemed to connect their disparate lives. It pulled them closer with an unseen magnetic force that defied all logic. She was inexplicably tied to this stranger, this silent benefactor, who had shown her more kindness than anyone in her former life ever had. Across the thin barrier, Elias watched the faint, consistent light from her apartment. He could almost feel the energy of her creative focus, a palpable resonance across the wall. His own work, usually all-consuming, felt distant, secondary to the quiet drama unfolding next door. He moved with silent precision through his study, his analytical mind now absorbed in the delicate art of subtle romantic support. He envisioned a future for her where her talent could flourish, a path subtly paved by his unseen hand, a quiet testament to their deep, evolving connection. He longed to see her light illuminate the vast city. The next morning, Lyra meticulously organized her charcoals and sketches. The apartment, once merely a sanctuary, now felt like a vibrant, humming studio. She decided it was time to move beyond solitary creation. She needed to find a way to share her art, to truly step into this new, uncertain life. The image of Lyra, her desperate flight and her defiant beauty, remained vivid, eclipsing all else. His initial concern had deepened into a potent sense of undeniable responsibility, a primal urge to protect and support her. He was a devoted man, whose thoughts now pulsed with the need for her happiness. He was a man who had finally found his purpose. Lyra found surprising solace in the rhythmic gurgle of her old coffee maker. The rich, earthy aroma slowly filled her tiny kitchen, a comforting blanket against the morning chill. It was a humble ritual, a stark contrast to the extravagant banquets she'd expected to endure. A small, defiant triumph of her own. The warmth of the mug in her hands was a welcome comfort, a tangible anchor in the turbulent uncertainty of her new reality. Her gaze drifted to the window, where the city still wore a mantle of soft grey. She took a cautious sip, the bitter warmth a shock to her senses clearing the cobwebs from her mind. Her thoughts, clearer now, turned to the daunting task of survival. She had little money, few connections, and a past she desperately needed to erase. The enormity of her situation threatened to overwhelm her, a suffocating weight of responsibility that pressed down on her from all sides. But beneath it, a small defiant spark of resilience flickered, refusing to be extinguished. This was her life now, unscripted and raw, and she would fight for every breath of it. A thoughtful, curious part of her wondered if that reinvention included Elias, the powerful, enigmatic man next door. A subtle shift in the ambient sounds, a faint hum of activity from the adjacent apartment, registered in her periphery. She pictured him, a figure of polished restraint moving through a world of effortless luxury. Their proximity created a strange, unspoken intimacy that left her spirit stirring with a low, delicious anticipation. Elias Clark stood in his vast, minimalist kitchen, sipping his own rich, dark coffee. His gaze kept subtly drifting to the shared wall, drawn by an invisible thread. He'd heard the faint sounds of her stirring, the delicate clink of a mug, a signal of her presence that consumed him with an unexpected intensity. His mind, an instrument of corporate strategy, found itself constructing scenarios for her. He, a powerful man accustomed to orchestrating complex deals, was now silently mapping the unseen future of a woman he barely knew. The impulse was powerful, an instinct to provide, to protect. Craven from a distance, his silent vow was one of unwavering devotion, a delicate, subtly sweet aroma, like cinnamon and apples, drifted into Lyra's apartment later that morning. It was an unexpected, comforting scent that momentarily eased the knot of anxiety in her stomach. Her neighbor, it seemed, possessed an unexpected warmth beneath his formidable exterior. The city outside continued its relentless pace, but within her small space, this quiet scent created an unexpected oasis of calm. It sparked a dangerous awakening of curiosity in her core, a deep yearning for a connection she couldn't explain. She was drawn to him in a way that defied all logic. She paced her living room, her mind wrestling with the immediate, overwhelming task of finding employment. Her skills were academic, not practical for a life on the run. Each step on the worn carpet felt heavy, laden with the weight of her choices. She knew she couldn't rely on her old life, for that would mean discovery. This new life, she understood, would demand reinvention. And a thoughtful, curious part of her wondered if that new self included the powerful man next door. Her gaze fell on her small bookshelf, filled with beloved novels and art history texts. A flicker of an idea, a spark of inspiration began to form. Perhaps, she mused, there was a way to combine her passions, to build a new existence that truly reflected who she was. The thought, timid at first, began to gain momentum, a fragile seed of hope illuminating a path forward. She felt for the first time a profound sense of purpose. Elias, in his spacious kitchen, meticulously arranged a plate of fresh apple and cinnamon scones. The act of baking felt strangely connected to her unseen presence today, a quiet offering of his care. It was a thoughtful gesture meant to draw her closer, to provide comfort without intrusion. He respected her fierce independence, a quality he deeply admired that resonated with his own relentless drive. It was a powerful force in their magnetic and blossoming connection. He wanted to offer more than just a silent vigil, more than just the faint aroma of comfort. He wanted to offer her a lifeline. The delicate, sweet aroma, distinct from her own coffee, slowly permeated Lyra's small apartment. It was the scent of baked apples and warm cinnamon, pulling her from the brink of despair. It was too direct, too deliberate to be an accident. Curious, she followed the elusive scent, drawn by an invisible thread. It led her directly to the shared wall with her neighbor. There, to her utter astonishment, a small, unassuming brown paper bag rested on the floor. Inside, still warm to the touch, nestled a perfectly golden scone, its surface dusted with sugar, exuding the heavenly smell that had drawn her in. Beside it, a crisp, elegant note, penned in bold handwriting, simply stated, "For sustenance." No name, no fanfare, just a silent, profound offering of care that pierced through her carefully constructed solitude. She stared at it, a cascade of emotions washing over her, from surprise to an unsettling warmth. Who was this mysterious, powerful man next door? The gesture was undeniably kind, a profound act of compassion, yet undeniably intrusive. She felt a prickle of unease, her privacy breached, but it was quickly overshadowed by a fragile, almost overwhelming sense of being truly seen in her moment of quiet hopelessness. The warmth of the scone seemed to extend beyond her fingers, reaching directly into the cold, isolated corners of her heart. It ignited a spark of curiosity and fascination that bloomed dangerously in this unfolding apartment romance, a profound and unexpected connection that she couldn't deny. Across the wall, Elias, feigning immersion in a financial report, held his breath. He'd heard the soft pad of her feet, the prolonged quiet as she discovered his offering. His heart hammered with an unusual rhythm, a powerful thrum of caring and anticipation, a genuine concern he rarely allowed himself to feel. He pictured her, delicate and resolute, standing over the scone, her expression a mystery to him. A soft, almost inaudible sigh reached him through the wall. followed by a faint rustle. He pictured her picking it up, accepting the silent gift. A quiet relief settled over him, easing a tension he hadn't realized he was holding. His small gesture had forged a profound connection. Lyra held the warm scone in her hands, its comforting weight, a stark contrast to the gnawing emptiness she felt. She debated, her mind a swirl of caution and longing. Should she discard it, assert her fiercely guarded independence, or should she accept this strange, anonymous kindness? Her fingers brushed gently against the delicate sugar crust, a tiny rebellion against her own fierce pride. It was a yearning for connection that resonated deep within her, a silent acknowledgement that she was not as alone as she had believed. The warmth was a potent invitation she instinctively understood. The thought brought a tremor of fear, but also a thrilling surge of resolve. This city story demanded she embrace its opportunities, not shrink from them. And a thoughtful, hopeful part of her wondered if those opportunities included the enigmatic Elias, whose presence felt like a constant guiding force. She researched local art galleries online, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The sheer number of options felt overwhelming, a vast ocean of possibilities where she was just a tiny, insignificant vessel. Discouragement flickered, a cold ember in her chest, threatening to extinguish her fragile hope, but she pushed it away, remembering the warm scone, the quiet piano music, the silent encouragement that seemed to emanate from beyond her wall. One gallery in particular caught her eye, the Clark Gallery. It was renowned, prestigious, almost impossibly out of reach for an unknown artist like herself. Yet something about its elegant website and its commitment to emerging talent resonated deeply within her. It was a perfect fit for her aspirations, a silent promise of recognition. She lingered on the contact page, her heart beating a nervous rhythm, a frantic drum of anticipation against her ribs. Elias, observing from his study, noticed the focused hum of her internet activity. He had anticipated this precise moment, the time when she would begin to search for her destiny. His plan was now in motion, the subtle gears turning with meticulous precision, gently guiding her toward an opportunity. He had just received a confirmation email from his gallery director. A spot had been discreetly reserved for an anonymous submission. He felt a quiet satisfaction, a deeper, more personal triumph. This was a different kind of victory, one measured in hope rather than profit. He would be the silent foundation of her success. Lyra spent the next few days in a whirlwind of focused energy. Her small apartment transformed into a vibrant, creative hub, filled with the hum of purpose and the quiet intensity of creation. Each stroke of charcoal was a testament to her newfound determination, a defiant assertion of her artistic identity. Her hands, usually trembling with nerves, moved with firm purpose as she meticulously compiled her submission. The thought of exposing her soul to the cold, analytical eyes of a prestigious gallery was terrifying. Yet the memory of Elias's quiet comfort instilled an unwavering courage within her. She was doing this for herself, for the woman she was becoming. The anonymous submission process felt both liberating and isolating. No name, no history, just the raw power of her art laid bare for judgment. She carefully packaged her portfolio, each movement charged with immense significance. This single act, this quiet defiance, felt monumental. It was a silent scream of hope in the indifferent expanse of the cityscape, a profound assertion of her identity. She was no longer just a runaway bride. She was an artist, and this was her first step into a world that would finally see her for who she truly was. Across the thin wall, Elias found his attention constantly drawn to her apartment. He detected a shift in the ambient sounds, a sustained period of focused quiet, an almost electric hum of concentration. He knew with an uncanny certainty that she was preparing her submission, pouring her soul into her work. A powerful surge of anticipation ran through him. He was a silent participant in her journey, driven by his profound caring for her, a burgeoning love that was now an undeniable motivator. He pictured her, delicate yet determined, pouring her heart onto paper, imbuing each stroke with her resilient spirit. He allowed himself a rare, almost imperceptible smile. His subtle maneuvering had worked. The path was laid. The opportunity awaited her. This was a crucial step in their developing connection, a delicate dance of destiny and deliberate orchestration, a testament to his growing investment in her life. Her triumph would also be his. The days following Lyra's submission were a blur of nervous anticipation. Her apartment, once a haven of creative intensity, now felt strangely silent, punctuated only by the relentless, mocking tick of her wall clock. The waiting was agony, a constant hum of doubt beneath her fragile hope, threatening to consume her spirit. She tried to resume her sketching, but her hand felt unsteady, her mind too restless to find its usual solace. The silence from the Clark Gallery was deafening, each passing hour amplifying her deepest fears. Had she been foolish to even try, to put her vulnerable soul on display for the world to scrutinize? The familiar chill of anxiety began to seep into her bones, threatening to extinguish the fragile spark of hope she had so carefully nurtured. It was a hope that had become vital to her new, uncertain life, the one thing keeping her from succumbing to the overwhelming reality of her situation. A faint, almost imperceptible vibration from the shared wall caught her attention, a low, resonant hum, like a cello chord held for a prolonged moment. It was Elias, his musical presence a subtle, reassuring anchor in her swirling anxieties. It felt like a silent acknowledgement of her struggle, a comforting presence. His music, she realized, had become a language of unspoken solace, a bridge connecting their solitary worlds. It was a balm for her troubled soul, a profound connection that deepened with every note he played. He was there even when he wasn't, a constant source of strength in her isolation. Across the wall, Elias sat at his desk, a single email open on his screen. It was from the director of the Clark Gallery, confirming Lyra's acceptance into the upcoming exhibition. A wave of deep satisfaction washed over him, more profound than any business triumph he had ever known. He wanted to tell her, to ease her anxiety, to see her eyes light up with pure joy. But he knew he couldn't, not yet. The beauty of this developing bond lay in its subtlety. He needed to give her space to discover her success on her own terms, to own her achievement completely. Her victory deserved to be hers alone. The email arrived late in the afternoon, its arrival a sudden, sharp jolt. The subject line was simple: Clark Gallery Submission Update. Lyra's heart leaped into her throat, a frantic bird beating against her ribs. Her hands trembled violently as she opened it, her breath held in agonizing anticipation. The words blurred for a moment, then coalesced into a stunning, unbelievable reality. We are pleased to inform you that your work has been selected. A triumphant gasp escaped her lips, a sound of pure, unadulterated relief and exhilarating joy that she couldn't contain. Her art had been seen, acknowledged, accepted. It was more than just an acceptance. It was validation, a powerful affirmation of her choice to flee, to reclaim her life. A wave of dizzying joy washed over her, leaving her legs weak. She sank onto her sofa, clutching her phone to her chest. Tears of profound gratitude and triumph blurred her vision. The city outside, once a cold, indifferent giant, now felt vibrant, shimmering with promise. This city story was unfolding in ways she had never imagined, a testament to her courage and the potent, unspoken connection with Elias. Her gaze drifted to the shared wall, a silent acknowledgement of her neighbor's profoundly impactful presence. She wondered if he somehow knew, if her sudden, overwhelming surge of happiness resonated across the thin barrier between them. She yearned to share this moment with him. Across the wall, Elias felt an almost palpable shift in the air, a sudden burst of vibrant energy from Lyra's apartment. He had been quietly monitoring his gallery's communications, knowing the email had been sent. He pictured her reading the words, her face alight with triumph, her spirit soaring. A profound sense of joy, rare and intensely personal, settled over him. This was the success he had silently hoped for, the validation she deserved. He had merely provided the platform. Her immense talent had done the rest. He raised a glass of aged scotch, a private toast to her future, to her success. Their profound connection was now unbreakable. The anticipation of the gallery opening pulsed in Lyra, a nervous excitement that made her hands tremble. She carefully selected her outfit, a simple, elegant dark dress she'd saved for years. This was her debut, her moment to step out of the shadows and claim her place in the artistic world. She rehearsed answers to imagined questions, practicing introductions in front of her small mirror. The idea of mingling with the city's elite, of being judged by a world she once fled, was daunting. Yet beneath the apprehension, a fierce pride simmered, a quiet fire igniting within her. Her work spoke for itself, a raw, honest reflection of her journey. It was her soul poured onto canvas, and that she realized was enough. This was her truth on display for all to see, a powerful statement in this unfolding apartment romance that had given her the strength to persevere. A faint, almost imperceptible sound of deep, resonant piano chords drifted through the wall. It wasn't a somber melody tonight, but something strong, uplifting, almost celebratory. It felt like a silent send-off, an unseen blessing from her enigmatic neighbor, a final surge of courage before she stepped out. She took a deep breath, letting the music fill her, ready to face her destiny with unwavering resolve. She carried with her the quiet strength of their unspoken connection, a bond she cherished above all else. His silent support was the armor she wore against the world. Elias, impeccably dressed in a dark, custom-tailored suit, observed the subtle shift in Lyra's apartment. He knew she was preparing to leave. He felt a powerful, irresistible urge to be there, to witness her triumph firsthand, but he knew his presence would be an intrusion. His role demanded a more subtle form of support. He had already dispatched his security team, discreetly positioned to ensure her safety. He had arranged for his gallery director to introduce her to key collectors and critics, subtly championing her work without revealing his involvement. Every detail had been meticulously planned, a testament to his profound love. Tonight, he knew, he would finally bridge the distance. The air in the gallery buzzed with the soft murmur of conversations and the rhythmic clinking of champagne glasses. Lyra stood among her displayed pieces, radiating a newfound strength, a quiet confidence that belied her inner nerves. Her dark dress, an understated counterpoint to the vibrant energy of her art, made her feel elegantly poised. Each piece, a stark, compelling cityscape rendered in charcoal, spoke volumes of her journey. It was a personal narrative of quiet defiance and newfound freedom brought to vivid, undeniable life. She watched as a renowned critic paused before her work, his expression unreadable, a moment of agonizing suspense, but a quiet, unshakable confidence settled deep in her core. This was her truth on display, raw and unvarnished, and she stood by it proudly. For the first time, she felt truly seen, not as a reflection of someone else's expectations, but as herself, Lyra Hayes, the artist, standing on her own merits. From a discreet vantage point on the gallery's second-floor balcony, Elias Clark watched Lyra. His gaze, usually piercing and analytical, softened with profound affection. She moved with a quiet grace, a captivating blend of vulnerability and strength that drew him in completely. He felt a deep surge of emotion, a powerful cocktail of admiration, and a fierce, protective connection that settled deep in his chest. He had orchestrated this, yes, but she had earned it, every bit of it, with her courage and her undeniable talent. Her triumph was more satisfying than any business deal. He could feel the pull, an undeniable magnetic force tugging him powerfully toward her, a yearning that was becoming unbearable. The subtle threads that had woven their lives together across a shared wall now felt like an unbreakable cable, drawing them inexorably closer, sealing their fate. A slight turn of her head, as if sensing his presence, made his heart skip a beat. Their eyes did not yet meet, but an unseen electric current of mutual understanding passed between them. It was a powerful, unspoken acknowledgement that their solitary worlds were about to irrevocably collide. Their destiny was finally being realized. The gallery buzzed, but for Lyra the noise began to recede, replaced by a singular, intense awareness. She felt an inexplicable presence, a silent, powerful pull that drew her gaze upwards with an almost magnetic force. And there he was, Elias Clark, a formidable figure silhouetted against the grand architecture, his gaze singularly focused on her. His piercing gaze was fixed solely on her, a profound connection that stole her breath. His eyes, usually cool, now held a burning warmth, an intensity that spoke volumes. In that single dazzling moment of recognition, everything clicked into place with a startling, undeniable clarity, revealing the truth she had subconsciously known. The anonymous kindness, the comforting music, the subtle orchestrations behind her success, it all coalesced around this man. Her neighbor, the powerful man who had silently admired and protected her, who had believed in her when she could not believe in herself. A profound love was revealing itself. Her heart hammered, a frantic, joyous rhythm that echoed the desperate flight from her wedding. She had escaped one imposed future, only to find herself unexpectedly tethered to another, far more compelling and utterly desirable. This profound apartment romance was her true path. His presence radiated an almost palpable power, yet it was softened by an unspoken tenderness. It was a quiet promise of unwavering devotion held in the deep, stormy depths of his eyes that saw her completely, authentically, as no one ever had. She felt exposed, yet paradoxically safe. Elias began his descent of the grand staircase, each deliberate, measured step bringing him closer, his gaze never leaving hers. The controlled calm he usually exuded was permeated by an undeniable purpose, a silent declaration of his unwavering commitment to cherish and protect her. As he reached the bottom step, the vibrant crowd around them seemed to disappear. He extended his hand, a profound invitation. His touch on her arm was electric, sealing their unspoken pact. He leaned in, his voice a low, resonant murmur meant only for her. "You escaped your wedding night," he whispered. "And now here you are, free. Would she risk it all for this unexpected love? Subscribe and tell us, would you risk it all for a love that promises to fulfill your soul?"